All right, these are your notes on the female reproductive system, structures and functions. SX just means structure, FX just means function. All right, first structure we're going to talk about are fallopian tubes. They are a set of two tubes, one on either side of the uterus, that connect the ovaries to the uterus, and it is through these fallopian tubes that eggs pass from the ovaries to the uterus. Next up, we have an egg or ova. The plural of ova is ovum. And they are small round cells which carry the mother's DNA. After ova, we have ovaries. They are connected for a reason. They both have to do with eggs. One is the egg, one creates the egg. It's the organ that produces hormones, which are chemical messages that control the female reproductive system. The ovaries are also where eggs are initially created and then stored. Women are typically born with when women are developing in the womb, they have over 1 million eggs. By the time you are born, you have between 200 and 300,000, but you only use like 400 in your lifetime between when you reach sexual maturity and start releasing eggs to when you hit menopause and no longer release eggs. Next up, we have the uterus. The uterus is the organ in women where the fertilized egg should implant. Eggs can implant elsewhere, like the fallopian tubes, and that is called an ectopic pregnancy. And we'll do a little reading and talking about ectopic pregnancies later on this week. All right, last on this page is the cervix. The cervix is the opening at the bottom of the uterus that allows menstrual blood out, sperm in, eventually babies out. The cervix is what needs to ripen and expand in order for a baby to be born. Those are the terms. It expands and widens or contracts and narrows during childbirth. All right, next up we have the vagina. The vagina sits between the cervix and the vulva. It has mucous membranes which lubricate and allow for stretching during intercourse, which is sex, and childbirth. All right, next up we have the vulva. Vulva is the outside portion of the female reproductive system and is made of the following parts: the inner and outer labia. Those are technically called the labia minora and the labia majora. If you pluralize that, labia minoris and labia majoris. Then the clitoris, the urethral opening, and the vaginal opening. Technically, vagina, not part of the vulva. All right, next up we have the labia. Labia are folds of skin that cover the rest of the vulva. The thought that is incorrect is that the vagina is the outer layer. The vagina is actually more internal structure. What is thought of as a vagina is actually your vulva, and that is where the outer fold of skin, the labia majora, starts it. Then there's a labia minora inside, and then you have clitoris, and then urethral and vaginal openings are all part of that vulva. All right, last up on this page is the clitoris. It's the female sex organ with many nerve endings. It grows from the same type of tissue that forms the penis in the male reproductive system. So same type of tissue. All right, next up, endometrium. Endometrium is the mucous membrane that is part of the lining of the uterus. That is what is sloughed during a period. Ovulation. Ovulation is the ripening of an egg, which is the maturation of an egg, and then the release of that egg into the fallopian tubes to be fertilized by sperm. Menstruation. It's the monthly reproductive cycle controlled by hormones, which are those chemical messengers. Ovulation occurs during menstruation. The shedding of that endometrium occurs during menstruation. Conception, when egg and sperm combine to form an embryo. The umbilical cord, it's a flexible cord-like structure attached to the baby's navel, which connects to the mother, and that gives the baby blood. That blood is filled with nutrients and oxygen, and it takes away waste. The umbilical cord is really just an artery to give blood to the baby and a vein to take blood away from the baby. All right, next up is the placenta. The placenta is the organ in the uterus that joins a mother to her unborn baby, and through it, the baby receives all of the nourishment it needs. Amniotic sac. The amniotic sac is the sac filled with clear liquid, amniotic fluid, which surrounds and protects the baby. Yes. Alexa. And the last one, labor. Labor is the physical effort of childbirth. It is when those contractions in your uterus start, signaling that it is time to push that baby out. So the female reproductive system is more complex, and therefore we're going to look at it from two angles. The first angle will be the same like medial cut and look at it from the side as the male. The next one will be straight on. So these are the structures you will need to memorize. The ovaries, the fallopian tubes, urinary bladder, clitoris, labium minora, labium majoris, urethra, vagina, perineum, cervix, uterus. Those are the terms you will need to be able to identify if you are given this, just like the male reproductive quiz, you were given an image. You will need to be able to identify these and tell me their function. You might also get one or the other or both images. This image of a straight-on view where you have an ovary here, it's a better look at how the fallopian tube is shaped than the body of the uterus. The endometrium is that outer layer. The cervix separates the uterus from the vaginal canal. And then here is the vagina. So you need to be able to do both of those things. These notes, as well as images, will be on Neo. There's also a Quizlet that is live that has all of these structures and functions.